Well, as Hamas has inflicted incomprehensible terror on the Israeli people, our next guest, a Muslim woman, wants it known that Hamas is not a military, Hamas is not an army, but in fact Hamas are terrorists. Hamas is ISIS, and they are exploiting the Palestinian people. Independent Women's Forum fellow and Muslim scholar Dr Qanta Ahmed joins us now. Qanta, great to see you as always. As a Muslim, we're seeing here in Australia, even today, demonstrations, anti-Israeli demonstrations. We've had some horrific scenes that went all around the world on the steps of the Opera House, people yelling, gas the Jews, kill the Jews, F the Jews. As a proud Muslim, what do you say about the events of last week?
I think, Rowan, that's the best word I've heard this week, incomprehensible. Just to try and understand the scale, people are using the comparison with 9/11 that we lived through here in New York. This is so much bigger than 9/11. This is equivalent to the United States losing almost 50,000 people to Islamist jihadists. The fact that it was targeting the Jewish people, it was explicit Islamist anti-Semitism, the brutality, the bestiality, the images exceed a lot of what I have seen related to ISIS. Those images were broadcast. We're now all recipients of psychological warfare waged on the state of Israel, waged on the Jewish people. It is, the words just cannot capture the horror. And as a Muslim, I'm extremely fearful that this is going to reanimate international Islamist jihadism. There's already been calls by Khalid Mishal for global jihad, and social media, according to Rilla Global, shows 1.5 million calls on social media in the first week, calls to action, including in the United States, the UK, the Netherlands, France, Rotterdam being a particular epicenter. This is extremely dangerous for the state of Israel and for the Muslim world.
James.
So, Qanta, where does this go in terms of the Muslim world? Because obviously Iran backs Hamas and Hezbollah. Israel had been getting close to the Gulf states and Saudi Arabia, which, of course, annoyed Iran. Where do the Saudis and the Gulf states go? Are they going to be forced to pick a side now? And will the Muslim world once again wind up being where it was a few decades ago, i.e., again united against Israel? There'll be a tragic outcome, but is that where we're going?
Well, first of all, I'm very glad that the United Arab Emirates, that's party to the Abraham Accords, and Bahrain have condemned the atrocities committed on the Israeli people. I think Saudi Arabia has announced a pause. This is not time to advance negotiations, but I do not believe it is going to retreat. Saudi Arabia particularly has invested trillions in elevating its population very effectively. They do not want to go back to pre-9/11 jihadist ideology. But the Arab world, the Muslim world, myself as a Muslim, extremely concerned about the plight and suffering of the Palestinian people as well as the Israeli people, and we need to come up with some real solutions. Pressure is on to create humanitarian corridor. Egypt has a critical role in that, but Egypt also needs to have guarantees that it's not going to be overrun by Hamas Islamists. Egypt works with Israel to secure and prevent Hamas from gaining a foothold, and the Egyptian people have kicked out Islamist ideology from Egypt in the Muslim Brotherhood, as has Saudi Arabia. So I certainly am anxious to hear Muslim leaders around the world, Muslim rulers, the Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman, the head of the Muslim World League, Dr. Mohammed Al Issa. I want them to condemn Hamas and acknowledge that Hamas is not the legitimate voice of the Palestinian people. Remember, Hamas has not permitted elections. Hamas went to civil war with Fatah, the other Palestinian authority that's now in the West Bank. Hamas is illegitimate. And at this moment, we are on the threshold of a war that Israel is going to wage on the ground in Gaza, which is going to be as difficult as the battle for Mosul, the battle for Fallujah. It is going to be absolutely devastating and difficult, but Israel will prevail. Hamas does not have the capability to defeat Israel, and Israel has to be emphatic. Israel's response to this is a pure deterrent so that Hezbollah understands it cannot get involved. That would
Rita.
be cataclysmal, and this is what Israel is also waging.
If Hamas is defeated, are we going to have another extremist, Islamist, terrorist group fill that void?
I would say, first of all, the word choice is excellent, Rita. We do want to see Hamas defeated and not destroyed. Destroyed means reconstitution. Defeat of Hamas is essential. If the circumstances of the Palestinian people do not change, that is going to lead to further similar conflicts, perhaps in related areas. So while a military solution is now imperative, without a political solution, that indeed could be a futile exercise. And so these are the questions that international leaders are thinking about, and that will need engagement of the surrounding Muslim Arab world. There were many opportunities in previous decades to formulate a sovereign Palestinian state in parallel to Israel. Many of us still hope for a two-state solution. That cannot happen if there is an armed Islamist state fueled by petrodollars on your doorstep. That is never going to happen. And so these are very difficult questions that are being contemplated.